what you're going to need as far as parts go before the curtain element gets introduced. So what we've got here are the curtain rails or tracks. You get these on Amazon. Really convenient because you can customize the width and everything. Our width was 16 foot 10, and so they only give you options of full length in feet. So you have to cut off, like this was, we had to cut off 2 inches because it equaled 17 feet with these 3 sections. And each section is 5 feet. So we got 3 5-foot long sections and then a 2-foot section. Cut 2 inches off of that, and that'll fit perfectly in between the posts. So here's the thing though, if you want to get a more finished look besides the galvanized look or whatever this is, you're gonna have to paint these, and you can't just paint them, you got to clean them up. So what we did was, I've used this stuff before. I got this on Amazon, and the links on all this stuff is down below in the description, but this stuff will clean off, well, like it says, grease and wax remover, surface prep cleaner, and it's got alcohol in it, as well as a few other things. So you do have to use it in an open area because it is harmful if you breathe in the fumes. It's got xylene and some other hydro-treated distillate. So anyway, the first part of prepping these things, like I said, is to clean them, clean all the grease off. And you can see on this rag here, I just got some shop towels here, shop rags, white rags. You get these at Walmart or whatever, even Amazon. So you can see what came off of it. And you can't really safely put paint over that kind of thing because, you know, it's just not going to adhere that well. And so you really want to clean this stuff off because the manufacturing process has a lot of oil involved on the machinery and everything. So anyway, you just take a little bit of that stuff and you use some rags and wipe it down really good until you don't have much residue coming off. And that will prep them for paint. So right here are the brackets, and the rails just butt up to each other like this. I'll show you later what it looks like as we're installing it, but it just holds it in there like that. And then we've got some roller hooks somewhere else. I'll show you those later too. But if you don't plan on painting, then you don't need to do any of this cleaning. They're a little bit greasy, so I'd recommend it, because if you're touching these and then you touch the curtains, you're gonna mess up the finish. But we've taken these all apart, wiped them down with this stuff, and then I actually used alcohol, just straight isopropyl alcohol on these to get the rest of that stuff off. So what I chose was the Rust-Oleum paint here. It matches our beam up there pretty closely, and I'll have a link to this stuff down in the description too, but it's made for metal. So here's the rest of our brackets, and like I said, you're gonna have to they do come with the nuts with the little lock washers already installed for this part, but you are gonna have to buy some lag bolts if you're securing it into wood, along with some washers. I got these at the local parts store. I'll have links down in the description for you to buy them on Amazon. Basically everything on here you can get on Amazon and just have it delivered. So that's the convenient part. Oops. Anyway, so these are 5/8 inch by 1.25 inch lag bolts, and they fit real nicely into these holes here with just a little bit of room, so you have a little wiggle room in order to adjust these, you know, in case you drill it wrong or whatever. You have to do a little pilot drill hole, probably about half the length of this bolt, I would recommend. And then these are 1/4 inch by 5/8 inch washers. So if I'm talking too fast for you, just look down in the description. You'll see all the parts listed that you need, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you get all the parts you need put together. Oh yeah, also they give you these end stops here with your order, and those just go inside here and tighten down in case you have no post at the end, and that'll keep your curtains from running out of the track. So got those as well. I'm spending a little extra time on the paint process for you. I know some of you aren't going to do the paint, so if this does not apply to you, you can fast forward through it. But those of you that are going to paint, you want these things to be strong, not to scratch easily, you know, have a good base coat of paint on them. This time of year, it's probably about 40 degrees outside, so I've got everything going on in the garage. And I don't like to do stuff in the garage like painting because of the fumes, but I am going to wear a respirator. And once I've got stuff heated up, you know, I got the parts heated up here, we've got a heater, then I'm going to open the garage door and the back garage door so we'll get some airflow while I wear the respirator, and we do several coats. In between coats, we'll close it up and we'll let stuff heat back up, and then we'll do another coat. Okay, so there's our first really light coat of paint. You can see it's just very light. We don't want to get runs. You got one shot to do this, and that's the way you do it. Now we're airing out. Got 3 coats on this hardware here. It looks really nice. Turned out really good. And we just waited about 40 minutes to an hour between each coat. Got helped out a lot by this nice radiant heater here between coats. And one of the things we were thinking about is we got all that nice painted hardware, but then we got these shiny stainless nuts to deal with. And so I'm going to go ahead and paint those separately. And here's a little trick that I use. You put tape on there, blue tape, backwards so the sticky side's up, and then tape it down on the ends, and then just put your nuts on there, and then you can just spray paint the nuts. Of course, when you put a socket on there, it's going to chip some of the paint, tighten it down, but at least we've got the majority of it done, and we can just go back with a brush and do a little touch-up, if it's even visible from, you know, 9 feet up. So in our case, we're mounting the curtains right below the beam here, so we've got a ceiling mount system set up. And you can see I've measured the center and snapped a chalk line all the way down to the other end. And using the chalk line right there, I'll put a link down in the description for you for that as well. So right now what I'm doing is I'm taking the hardware and measuring, first of all, marking the bolt holes down at the end up against the end of where the curtain track is going to go, and marked all 4 holes so I can pre-drill. And then from there I'm measuring out 5 feet and putting a screw in so that I can put I'm using a headlamp, you can see my shadow there. So we can hook the tape, kind of hard to do this and video at the same time, but hook my tape on that screw and then go out 5 more feet and then do it again. And then at each 5 foot mark, we center this on that 5 feet. You can see the little edge mark there, because this is where the 2 rails are gonna join. They're gonna butt together. And then once we get these mounted, then we can put our hardware up there. But right now I'm just marking the bolt holes, each of them, so that I can pre-drill. So you can see there I've got my tape hooked onto the screw at the 5 foot mark. And we're just gonna go out here to another 5 foot mark. We're gonna mark that, and then we're gonna be able to put the hardware up and mark the screws. All right, so I'm gonna do a little disclaimer here. We are using some cloth curtains that we're getting on Amazon. They're about 9 feet tall. And we're just using this 1.25 inch long leg bolt. If you're using something like vinyl that's a lot heavier, you're gonna need a longer lag bolt and maybe even a thicker one. So you can kind of see this one's got a little bit of room. So you could go with a little wider bolt, a little bit longer if you've got something, you know, if you're punching through siding or whatever, you're gonna have to figure that out, make sure that it's structurally appropriate for what you're doing. But for our case, we're just doing really light curtains and there's not much weight on them, so we're going with these 1.25 inch long leg bolts. Also, when I pre-drill, I've taped off the bit so that I don't go the full length of the leg bolt. You can kind of see here. It's hard for me to video and do this at the same time. So I'm only going to go in that far, and then the rest is going to be the bolt just making its own way into the wood. That way we have a good solid connection. All right, so what about these shiny buggers? Those are gonna stick out like a sore thumb too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that box that we had taped off and where we spray painted the nuts, we're gonna just jam these in here and spray paint the heads on these too. And then if we booger them up by, you know, screwing them into the socket, we'll just do touch up manually with a little brush. Yes, you could tape off once you put these up there. You could tape them off and spray paint them or paint them whatever. But in our case, I'm just going to paint these separately. That way I preserve the integrity of the mounts there. All right, we'll get these guys painted and we'll go drill the pre-drill the holes. Now we're just pre-drilling where we marked these 4 holes, and only up until the point where we marked the bit on the tape. Those bolts turned out pretty nice, and that paint's actually pretty tough if we just go slow and we don't hammer on them. So right now I've got the first rail set up with the mounting hardware installed. I don't have it tightened down yet, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. So we're going flush up against posts, so we don't need the stopper. But if you do need this, like you don't have a post on the end, you just put this thing in here like that. And then there's a hole there, a slot, that is too small for this to come through, but big enough for you to put an Allen wrench or Allen key in there to tighten it up, and then it just pulls this thing back and puts pressure on that bolt. So that's what you do there. But I'm not doing that in this case. Another thing I'm going to note is you don't want to cinch these down tight all the way. We want to have a little bit of play there, just a little bit, because when you put these mounting brackets up against the bottom of the beam, your pilot holes aren't going to be perfectly exactly square. So you need to make sure that you're lining up the rails on that snap line, that chalk line that you made, and then tighten it down. Once you get everything all up there, then you can secure everything, and that way the track will be straight enough for your curtain to open and close. So don't wrench things down right now, just leave them secure but not too tight. All right, so we got this first little piece in. I wanted to do it first because it's easier, but you can kind of see how with the bracket tightened down, it's not perfectly lined up here, and that's why we leave things loose, so you can push it over and tighten it up. Once all the rails are up and lined up, that's when we tighten everything down. Things are going up pretty nicely. I didn't have an extra helper, so I had to figure out a way to do it by myself. And what I came up with was just using one of these little straps here. And so I get up on the ladder and strap that thing down in the middle, and then that allows me to secure one end and then come over here and put the next bracket on the next end. Do yourself a favor and get yourself a good set of tools, power tools, that will go a lot faster. And being pre-drilled, this really helped. the operation move quicker. Just go slow, tighten them like you would wheels, kind of cross pattern. So each time you get one of those brackets up there secured, leave the 4 small nuts loose, but secure enough to hold the last rail that you slid in. And then take the next rail, which I've got right here, and just slide it in up there. See if I can get a better angle. It's hard to do this with the phone and everything in one hand. There's a little knob in there that will kind of lock into place with the hole in the bottom of the rail as well. So just slide it in there, and then you come down here and put the other side of the bracket on right here. So now I just have the remaining short section to put in. I had put it in originally. I did both ends, and then I realized we didn't have enough roller hooks. They give you 1 per foot roughly, and we needed 40 of them for the curtains that we're putting up. So make sure that you get the curtains first, or the tarp with the grommets, and know how many roller hooks you're going to need, because they'll probably throw in some for free if you don't need too many. But we needed 20 extra, which is another 50 bucks roughly. So we're going to put this section up last once we get the remaining roller hooks sent to us. The patio curtain project is done. We've got all the rails up. We got all the parts done. I'll get a little closer view up there of the rail and the rings that we use to hang the curtains with. All the links are down below in the description for the curtains. Those were on Amazon and really fairly low priced for what they are, and so it was pretty low risk as far as this project goes. The rail turned out perfect, and we're real happy with it. So before we hung up these curtains, you'll notice that I put a clear vinyl backing, or a tarp basically, custom ordered also from Acon, and it turned out real nice. We've done this before in the past with the vinyl to keep the breeze off of us when we're sitting out here in the patio in the winter, and I just wanted one where you didn't have to see the straps and it was secured better. I'll show you the backside here in a minute, but for now, back to the curtain project here. We found these little spring hook clips on Amazon as well, and they were the perfect color, kind of a brown color, and because the roller hooks here that we had with the rails are only available in chrome, so we wanted to reduce the amount of chrome that we had, and these turned out perfect. They're just a snap hook and they're pretty cheap, but this curtain is not really very heavy, but because we have the protection back there with the vinyl, they didn't have to be super heavy duty, but they're I'd say medium duty, and they're soft, and this thing rolls really nice and smooth. So real happy with the function, and we've got all the hardware secured now. Looks really good. So one thing to consider with the measurements on your patio is the rail is custom cut. So when you order it on Amazon, there's a form that you fill out, and you can order it exactly the dimensions you want. The curtains only come in specific sizes, but any upholstery shop, auto upholstery or furniture, will be able to shorten those up for you if you need them shortened. So keep that in mind. And also when you're measuring for curtains, make sure that you measure it probably double the width, maybe triple the width, because you want to have the folds when they're all expanded. These panels I actually made myself on using parts from Home Depot, and that is a project that I don't ever want to do again, but I'll just show you a little close-up real quick of the materials here and how roughly it was done. They turned out okay. They've held up for at least 4 seasons now. But anyway, back to the tarp, the vinyl. This thing, it's got some folds in it still from being folded and shipped. We got this custom ordered. I did it on Amazon, and I just put in the dimensions exactly the way I wanted it. Acon, I think that's the company name. The links are down below, but they also provided this as well, and it turned out real good. These little hooks here that I've got it secured with are the same ones that I've got up on the beam, and they're just plastic and they come with screws, but they're pretty solid. And this vinyl really doesn't weigh that much. It might be 20 pounds, so between all these grommets, it's not that bad of a load on these little plastic hooks. And we've got the side secured. We might get up to 20 miles an hour here on the wind occasionally, and it always comes out of the south. So it's pretty well protected from this beam. I don't anticipate a problem. And then we also ordered this, was an option to order with the loop at the bottom, a 3-inch loop, and you just put PVC down there. And that weights it down a little bit, keeps it flat and flush up against the deck. And it will be secured. I just haven't got the hardware done yet, but we'll get that done. So anyway, that's the end of the project. Please subscribe. Check out the links at the bottom. Look at all my other projects that I've got on the YouTube channel. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Thanks.